And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Sling'N Lead Podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And I'm Scott.
Are you ready? Are you sure? Are you ready, Kent? We good?
Hold on, mate.
You buffered there for a second.
Yeah, this all makes it. It all makes it into the cut. That's the best part.
You buffered there for a fair. Guys, welcome. And you'd see, and you didn't mute your phone or your camera.
It's you.
Those things. It's not me.
Are you sure?
Positive. Stop making me feel self-conscious. Anyway, joining us tonight is Scotty Cronin of Gunset fame. Scotty, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Yes.
Yeah, man. Well, we're going to talk wheel guns. We figured we might as well bring somebody on that knows a thing or two, right? Can't just let Kent have all the fun.
I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. See, here's the thing. Scotty is actually Master Cronin. And in order to become Master Cronin, he had to shoot a revolver for real in a class in front of people. So, Master Cronin, revolvers.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm a master of revolvers, but I certainly do like them. And I've had a little bit of experience, and I've got a pretty soft spot when it comes to revolvers. And I can't really explain why. I've been shooting a Glock 19 Gen 3 for the last decade, and it's like a part of me, like I extend my hand and it's just part of me. I'm just so used to that gun and I love that gun, but there's just something about a revolver, and I don't know if it has to do with hearkening back to our forefathers, a simpler time. I'm not sure if it's the mechanical complexity of a revolver that makes them work. That's just I find fascinating. But I do. I love revolvers. Specifically, I've got a real soft spot for J-frames. So we'll talk more about that, I'm sure.
So
Indeed, we will.
Mr. Cronin has taken and passed the Range Master, of course. That's why I'm calling him Master Cronin. For those of you playing the home game, I'm gonna go to it here in a couple months. So I haven't yet had the opportunity to shoot a revolver as part of receiving a cert. Can I say that for sure? No, I don't think any of the certs I've ever received, like instructor certs or anything like that, had anything to do with shooting a revolver. So
I'll tell you, it was really, really cool to do the same sort of training that I've been doing for a real long time, but with a revolver, right? So the application was similar, but there was a whole lot of challenges. And, once you got pretty comfortable with it and once you started running them, especially the way that Tom teaches it in that class, you find like you can really do a lot of things with the revolver. I mean, a revolver is a very, very formidable weapon, but it still falls short in just about every way to a semi-automatic, which begs the question, why do I love them so much? I don't know. But yeah, that's a phenomenal class. I'm excited for you to take that, man. We missed you at the last one.
Yeah, the schedules and so forth. But I will say this. It's pretty ironic that Gibbons is including revolvers in his class, seeing as he was there when they were invented.
He was, yeah. He carried one for a long time and used one for a long time. And
I'm telling you right now, if they would have let him have a revolver in the Civil War, stuff might be a little different. They weren't ready to give him one of them. These are all Tom Gibbons old jokes. That's all these are. It's fine. It's fine. I'm certainly not scared of Grandpa. I'm terrified.
Well, the guard of the burning bush was an unarmed position, or he would have picked one up sooner.
Suited shootist coming in here with the nice Star Wars reference. I might be on the council, but I will not be given the title of master. It's pretty ironic. I like it. So let's go with updates. I'll start. Can I start? I'll start. I'm gonna start with updates.
Yeah. You go. Go ahead, Kent. What have you been up to lately?
My martial arts journey stopped about 17 years ago, plus or minus 18 years ago. Got pretty far in the world of judo. I am super duper proud to tell you that you are looking at Central Pennsylvania's newest jiu-jitsu white belt. Early white belt, the whitest of belts. Couldn't be a whiter white belt. And more importantly, so is Mrs. Hauer. So
that's awesome.
Mama Bear went and got sweated on. I was so happy to pay another dude hundreds of dollars to roll around on the floor and sweat with my wife. I couldn't have been more happy. Right?
Wow. That's quite a way to put it.
It's the little things that bind us together, Kent.
I'm just saying, I paid another dude to roll around on the floor with my wife. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm. Accurate.
Nah, it's pretty cool to have the opportunity to like get to a space in the business where you can give up just a little time and get it back for yourself and do something else. So yeah, jiu-jitsu is going to be the thing. So we can talk competing, we can talk jiu-jitsu on here. Now I'm one of the kids. I get to, all the time, freaking TJ's on here talking jiu-jitsu with people, and I'm just like, hey, I don't know. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, you're afflicted now, man.
Dude, I'm going to no-gi tomorrow.
I'd pay money to see you in one of those rash guards.
Hold on.
All right.
He always wears those rash guards.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Hey, Kent, we can get those new cameras we wanted.
Sling'N Lead OnlyFans. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Kent's gonna have an OnlyFans, and Scotty's gonna be his only subscriber.
So
It's gonna be Scotty. It's gonna be Scotty's like personal repository of Kent in rash guards.
Here's the problem, Scott. I've literally lost over 100 pounds. I should never put it on in the first place. But point being, there's a lot of extra Kent that still kind of like flaps around, and the only way for me to keep it all together is a rash guard. So I've been wearing a rash guard for like a minute.
There's no shame in that game, bro.
Otherwise known as a Under Armour compression shirt. But every time I call it a compression shirt, TJ's like, "It's a rash guard."
Yeah,
he gets all like a little bit crazy about it. So anyway,
I think you should start doing Sling'N Lead rash guards.
TJ, do that.
Yeah.
That's our whole business model is me saying, TJ, do that, and he goes, God damn it.
I'll work on it.
I just competed in my first tournament this last weekend.
Awesome. Tell us about it. How'd it go?
Lessons were learned, my friend.
You did an awesome job AARing it for me on the phone. So get at it a little bit. We got some time. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, so I guess the biggest thing that I found out was, first of all, I was a moron, and this was the Ohio Grappling Challenge. And I got to looking at the weight classes, and I did not like the weight class I was in, so I decided to cut 10 pounds the week of. And I wrestled in high school. I cut weight a lot before, but 40-year-old me cuts weight different than 16-year-old me did, And so when I showed up the day of, I was dehydrated. I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. I had fasted, and I made weight by 0.2 of a pound. But man, about 2 minutes into my first match, I just died. My gas tank was empty, and I'm rolling with
my friend. My friend, that is called an adrenaline dump.
Well, I mean, that was 100% part of it, I'm sure. But I mean, I'm telling you, dude, I had nothing in my tank. And then in the middle of my first match, I was in a closed guard. I took the guy down, and he starts really squeezing on me, and I start feeling some movement in my bowels. And everything, since I was trying to rehydrate, everything was just going through me. And that became my singular focus, was don't have an accident right there on the mat. And I mean, it was all I could think about. And to like a point of panic, like I don't know. So that was all of that, my gastrointestinal distress. And, my mom's in the other room. She's hearing me describe this. But all of that happening, that was just, I don't know. It was a mess that should have been avoided. If I hadn't cut weight, I think that I would have had a much better chance, because I feel like I'm in pretty good shape right now. I
thought it wasn't an actual mess that could have been avoided.
Yeah. I mean, it was close, dude. I don't think you understand what was happening.
Scotty, we didn't think you were a brown belt. What happened?
Bro, the thing is like, so I was on these waffle mats, right? They're not like wrestling mats. They're like porous, and we would have had to throw them out. Like, there'd been no way to clean that up. It would have been, I would have forever left my mark there in that gym. So anyway,
it's one for the highlight reels.
This is good television right here, bro.
I managed to avoid that. And man, after the fight, I ran as fast as I could to the bathroom. So yeah, that was rough. So I ended up getting arm barred in my first match. I left my arm hanging out there when I shouldn't have, and got snatched up. And yeah, it was ugly. And then I didn't tap. That was the other thing. I pulled a Ricky Bobby. Is that who it is? Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
You didn't know what to do with your hands.
He won't say he loves crepes. That was it. I was just like, you're going to have to break it. I'm not tapping. And that was also a huge mistake, because the sound that came out of my elbow was so gross when it popped that the guy jumped off me and like immediately started tearing up and like grabbing his face, and everyone thought he was injured, but it was just that he thought he just snapped my arm, and it seems to still be working. It's a little sore today, but it was a really super gross sound, and again, could have been avoided if I would have tapped. So like I said, lots of lessons learned. I don't think I was prepared for the desperation of grown men trying not to get strangled. And I feel like it was a lot closer to a real fight than I thought it was going to be. It's one thing to roll around with your buddies in the gym during practice and not want to hurt each other and try new stuff and things like that. But like when the stakes are a little higher and you're on the mat with a total stranger, and everybody's watching, and like just something different happens. And like I said, there was this desperation that nullifies some of the advantages that you might have over your opponent. And also, your game plan that you go into the fight with doesn't survive contact with the enemy. So like you're relying on muscle memory, you're relying on, good foundational skills, mastery of good fundamentals and foundational principles and best practices and stuff. And those are things that I don't have yet, because this was my first tournament. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about a year now. So I guess that's my full AAR was I've got a lot to work on, and a lot that I learned from this. So, and I can't wait to eat again. I can't wait to do it again.
I just described, so tonight's a big night, Green Mountain Defense World. I just minted 2 of my private lesson students as alumni, right? You know what that means in terms of like how much effort they've put in. And I was telling them, not that they ever needed it, but I was giving them my repeated blessing. Like, hey, it's time for you guys to compete. It's time for you guys to go out and train with other people. It's time for you to go to see. Like you need to expand your horizons beyond me. Not that you've arrived, not that there's nothing else I can do for you, but like time to get out there. And I was describing to them like their first shooting match. And you just described somebody's first shooting match. It just happened to be about jiu-jitsu. Same feeling, same stress, Same desperation, same my plan didn't survive first contact, and now I'm relying on fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the same. Like,
well, and we talked about this the other night, how funny it is, the parallels between those who are from the combatives school of the gun world and those who are from the competition side of the gun world, and how, and I feel like it's maybe changing a little bit. I mean, I don't know what you think, but excuse me, I think that, you know, people like you, people like Jedi, you know, I mean, we're seeing a lot of people who are crossing those two worlds and bridging. Sorry, I'm drinking too much beer, too fast anyway. But the for a long time, it was always two sides. It was a dichotomy, two sides of a coin, and both sides kind of turned their nose up at each other. With jiu-jitsu, I feel like it's very similar, where you see a lot of guys that, you know, they are training jiu-jitsu for the street, and then you've got guys that do sport, and they turn their nose up at each other and kind of make fun of each other and give each other a hard time and look down on the other people. And man, I think that right in the middle on both, whether you're talking about shooting or whether you're talking about jiu-jitsu, right in the middle is where we should be living. You know, you should be testing yourself. You should be competing. You should be thinking about, how does this apply to real life? You know, how does this apply to conflict and combat and the street, and, you know, what are the practical applications? And then go out and test yourself and put yourself in positions that you're uncomfortable, and you know, see how you stack up against others, and put yourself under stress and have that adrenaline dump, and then go back and, you know, think of it in context of, you know, how was this like a real fight, and learn from it. So, yeah.
you know, it's funny. You just talked about striking that middle. Here's a thing. I'm thinking of a person right now, a guy that comes out to our shooting matches, and, you know, whatever. He's a nice guy and all that. When you talk to him, when the gamer shooters talk to him about shooting, he'll say to you about, like, hey, you know, I'm really a defensive minded shooter. Like, I don't do all that crazy competitive stuff. And then when you talk to him about defensive minded stuff, he'll be like, well, I'm really here for competition. And the funny part is, I hit him up a little bit, and I was like, hey man, why don't you come out to this class or that class or whatever? And our guy who was trying to strike the middle, or saying he was trying to strike the middle, looked at me and he goes, well, I took all the classes. And I kind of was like, what? He was like, I took all the classes. All of them? Like, you took them all. I didn't see you last week. You weren't at mine. Did you go over to see Scott? No? Tim? No? Jedi? No?
That's a hilarious thing to say, by the way.
Right. I took them all. So I was like, all right, I'll bite. I said, hey, man, when's the last time you were in a class?
1973.
No. He's like, I was at, what did he say? It doesn't matter. I was at Tactical FUD Band Camp in friggin' 1994. I'm trying to think of the name. What's the name of the terrible gun school? I'm not trying not to say it. Front Sight. Front Sight.
I'll say it.
He was like, I was at Front Sight in 1994. And I was like, oh my God, how are you still alive? For one thing. And for another thing, like, do you know how many classes have happened since 1994? Like, what? You haven't taken all the classes? Come on, bro. Get in on this.
There might have been an evolution or two in the last 30 years.
Not to mention, like, I took all the classes. That'd be like, I don't know, that like the equivalent statement is, he's like, well, I took all the ones I need. All right. And then, you know, we shot a match, and he came in like pretty close to dead last again. You know, he's beaten by an 11-year-old and an 80-year-old. You know, and it's like, bro, like, come on. So for me, bridging the middle of that is, and this is, I love this about myself, because I will tell you truthfully, 20-something-year-old Kent was on way too much of an ego trip to be this guy. I will gladly show up to jiu-jitsu, shut the fuck up, say nothing, learn, get my ass kicked, say nothing again, learn some more. I mean, we did it. We signed up for a freaking 18-month membership. This guy owns my ass for the next 18 months. I'm paying him to beat the snot out of me, I suppose, right? And, I'll gladly show up to a match that I'm going to do well, but maybe necessarily not win and be okay with that. And I'll gladly show up to somebody's gun class and learn something new. Because we've all had so many ego deaths at this point that we might as well be Joe Rogan talking about freaking mushrooms. Like, the ego has been entirely beaten out of us at this point. It's such a good feeling. I really kind of relish that.
Well, one of the things I posted the other day was that with jiu-jitsu, it's really hard for your ego to survive. I mean, when you go out there and get wrist locked by a 110-pound girl in 11 seconds, I mean, your ego can't survive that.
She's clearly playing prison rules, by the way. So my first jiu-jitsu tournament was interesting. Mine was a bit more comedic. So
more comedic than almost pooping your pants?
I said it was almost comedic.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, my background coming, again, like Kent, trained martial arts, as a kid. I wrestled in high school. So this style of competition, of combat is not foreign to me. It was within the first 6 months of me training, probably, it's probably first six or 8 months I've been training. I was still in the ultra heavyweight division, so I was above 220 pounds. And I go into a fight. My first fight, it was at the Corvette Museum in Kentucky. And I got into the fight. Dude was a bit taller than me, by like a solid 1.5 feet. Because that's the one downside when you're built like me, when you're 5'9", 215, 220, you're either the lightest or you're the shortest guy in your division. Just the way it is. Get used to fighting taller motherfuckers. That's just kind of how it happens. So I get into this fight with this dude, and I actually do quite well for the first few moments. I'm moving around him. I get into side control, and he just bench presses me off of him like I'm not even there. He ends up bench pressing me off of him, is able to flip me around. Like, we get to a scramble, he flips me around, puts me in a bow and arrow choke, and I tap. And I come off the mat, and I look at my coach, and my coach is like, hey, man, when they go to bench press you like that, you got to flip to like north-south. Like, you can't tee off with them. You've got to be, head-to-head with them. And I was like, yeah, that advice would have been nice, a month ago before we signed up for this. Thanks. So it was just that moment when you look at, he just put on his 4th degree, but a 3rd degree black belt. You're like, you really could have told me a little bit more here, bud. So it was an interesting.
It's always their fault.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I feel like that's vital information that I wish I'd had known.
Sure.
So, welcome to angrily screaming into the microphone podcast. My name's TJ.
Right.
Oh, geez. So, we didn't actually come here to talk about jiu-jitsu. It just happens. We're going to talk about revolvers.
I was going to say, you better cut us off because we'll talk about jiu-jitsu the rest of the night.
I know.
Kent is clearly the adult in this.
I am. So, I don't know why we still use these things. I just don't get it. They're worthless. They serve no combative applications. There's no practical purpose to using them. They should be wiped from existence. Prove me wrong.
Wow.
That's not actually what you get what I'm doing. I'm doing the devil's advocate and all hypothesis thing, right? So here's a conclusion that I have come to. A part of life that I've yet to experience, that I've started to experience, is the feeling of having a gun on and having your 3.5-year-old say, "Daddy, come wrestle." Right? And, Daddy's got a gun on all the time, right? So, all right, homeboy, hold on. Let me walk over here stand up next to the brick fireplace, handle my gun looking all like Tim Kelly, cool as fuck, clear it, rip the top off of it, put one half of it over here, one half of it over here, whatever the hell you want to do, and make a big show of things, blah, 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 blah. Or do I just wrestle with my kid, right? So I feel a little more comfortable with, I don't know, 10-pound such and such LCR trigger. Don't tell me what an LCR trigger weighs. I have no idea. It weighs more than Glock. Don't like. But you get what I'm saying? I do feel a little bit happier about that. Also, and perhaps more importantly, I have found myself in revolver world carrying when I otherwise would not be able to, such as on the mountain bike, in an Enigma, pedaling around. And I still have a gun on because LCR fits there. Other things with square edges and square angles ouch me and don't work right when I'm on a mountain bike. So there. Those are my 2 reasons. That and because I have to. Because gun instructor.
That's fair.
Right? What about you, Scotty? Why would you tomorrow if you were going to carry a revolver as opposed to something else, why did you do it?
Well, it's Greg Ellifritz's fault. I took his revolver class. One of the things that we did was we shot revolvers through our coat pocket. And I had just been in a scenario where I was at the gas station and, I had just got done working all day. I think I had taught a class all day Sunday, was at the range late, tearing everything down, got up early the next morning, went to work, worked all day. It was one of those kind of things where I was dead ass tired. And so after work, I was at the gas station and it was cold. It was blustery. It was snowing sideways. I had my coat all zipped up and my situational awareness was not where it should have been. And I was standing there pumping gas and my door was open. I remember my door was open and I was standing there pumping gas and all of a sudden my door closes and there's this dude just running at me. And he gets on me real quick and all he wanted was change, but he was so tweaked out that he felt like he needed to be this close when he was asking me for change. And so I'm getting frames in the way. I'm trying to push him back. I'm trying to create space and I'm going to clear my gun. I don't know that I was going to draw on him, but I was trying to clear. And because I did not know what was happening, it all happened fast and I was startled. And my coat, with the way it was zipped up, I couldn't access my firearm. There was no way. It was way too tight around my waist. And so now I'm, kind of catching up to what's going on. I tell the guy I can't help him out. He needs to back up. He needs to get out of my space. I solved that problem. But that thing was pounding in my ears. And then I went to this revolver class where we're shooting through coat pockets. And it just kind of I don't know, connected some dots for me. And so there's a lot of times when it's cold out, I still carry a primary firearm, but if I know that it's going to be something that is difficult to access, I like to have a gun in my coat pocket. And for me, that's a revolver because I don't have to worry about a slide reciprocating and things like that. For me also, I really do not advocate carrying without a holster, but there's times when I stick a gun in my pocket to take the trash out or, to walk the dog real quick or something like that. I try to practice what I preach. I don't go anywhere without a gun. And so if I'm running something out to my car in my driveway, I'm going to grab a gun. Well, I don't always have time to grab a holster and stick it on and things like that. So sometimes I'll slide a revolver in my gym shorts pocket or something like that. Kind of to your point, I'm a little more confident with a revolver with a 12-pound trigger than I am with a semi-automatic, pistol, even if we're talking about, an LCP or something like that, which I don't own. I also really for whatever reason, I really like carrying them when I'm mowing the grass, things like that, doing sort of manual labor. I tend to carry revolvers a lot. So I'm not really sure if I've hit all the reasons why I like them. Like I said, I think we talked a little bit earlier about how I just appreciate the complexity of the mechanics and the engineering. And I am definitely not one of those people that think that revolvers are reliable. I think that revolvers are significantly less reliable than a semi-automatic. The slightest, tiniest little thing will screw up your revolver and make it completely inoperable, despite what you hear in gun shops all the time. It's one of my absolute pet peeves when I hear people at gun shops be like, "Oh, you should get a revolver because they just go bang every time you pull the trigger." That is not the case. But I do think that they're the most likely to go bang if you load it up and put it in your nightstand and don't touch it for 10 years. Real good chance that if you take it out, it'll go bang, where with a semi-automatic, it may or may not. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's pros and cons, pluses and minuses. Obviously, we know the capacity is an issue. Reloading them is an issue. The triggers are terrible. But, they also serve as a really good impact weapon, too, in the event that you run out of ammunition. So
something that I've asked all the people this question. All the people. I've been to all the classes.
Like the guy that took he took all the classes.
I've been to all the classes, and I've asked all the people this question. So I'm going to ask it of you, Scott. Do you believe that dedicating time to the difficulty of the revolver trigger translates well to shooting other platforms?
Man, I don't know.
That's a great answer.
For me personally, I feel that the more time that I spend on any trigger, that it does translate. Maybe not like immediately. If I spend a whole day working on a double action trigger and then I pick up my Glock 19, I'm probably going to have an ND if I'm not careful, right? Because I'm used to a long, heavy trigger. But one of the things that I found was when I've spent considerable amount of time with a double action trigger, you develop a significant amount of trigger control, right? Like the ability to kind of feel that the nuanced trigger, because as if you're staging a trigger, or if you're trying to shoot quickly and you're making sure you don't short stroke on a revolver and things like that. I mean, it really requires a lot of concentration on what this thing is doing until you get to a point of, muscle memory, automaticity. My apologies, Dave Spalding. So we want to, make sure that we're not short stroking it. So we're concentrating and we're, really concentrating on that sort of stuff. So I think that does make you a better pistol shooter when you translate back to pistols as well. I think that you really are, at least for me, I feel like I'm connecting some neurons in there. The 3 or 4 neurons that I have that are working up here in my brain, tend to connect. But the one thing that I will say is that I really, when I spend a lot of time on revolvers and I go back to a semi-automatic, one of the things I try to be real careful about is really concentrating on the trigger so that I don't, slam through a trigger because, I'm used to that 12-pound trigger.
All right. So of the following 2 things, which is more likely to occur? 3 yards, 3 rounds, 3 seconds. Not that I love that as a standard or whatever, but like dude in your personal space, putting his hands on you, knifing you, robbing you, shooting you, stabbing you, whatever, up in your business, or Scotty rounds the corner in the nearest megaplex and has to make a 50-yard shot, 25-yard shot. Holy shit. What's the more likely scenario?
Which one of those statistically is more likely as a 3-yard?
Yeah. Right. So, and I hate statistics, right? Because in order for 3 yards, 3 rounds, 3 seconds to be a real number or a valuable number or any kind of a statistic, that means there's one dude who had to crack a motherfucker from 37 yards once, And that means there's also another dude who had to make like 10 contact shots and like all the other variables that exist. So one of the things that Alex Sudichudis just pointed out here was that like the active spree killer is often used as a deterrent. Like, you can't be carrying that LCR, bro, because what happens if you get into the, I don't know, the next movie theater, mall, or whatever, killing? You're not going to be able to make that 25-yard, put them down right now shot with your 38 LCR.
I disagree with that, but
so first of all, Scotty's over here like, hold my beer, motherfucker. Watch this. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's one of those.
Most people can't. I would say most people would find a distance shot with a revolver significantly more difficult than with a semi-automatic. But
I would say so.
But I also think that the vast majority of people who would struggle with a 25-yard revolver shot would also struggle with a 25-yard semi-automatic pistol shot. So I'm not really sure that that's a good excuse.
I think that's totally legit, right? Because the guy, you know, the dude who's not to whatever. I'm not fluffing up our guest, but Scotty, I don't care what gun you have on you. If you need to make a 25-yard consequences shot with my kid around, please proceed. I'll take my chances. I feel pretty good. My man could shoot. TJ, please strangle somebody.
On it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You see my point, though? The three of us on this show, like, hey, man, give me a handgun. I'll figure it out.
Right.
Like,
well, when you take the master class, one of the things that you'll have to do is the entire range master qual with a revolver, and that includes up to 25-yard shots. And it was one of the things that I was pretty intimidated by initially until we started doing it and started working with it. And I found like I was totally capable of doing that. My daughter would like to say hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
No name.
So,
no name.
so that, that's one of the things where it was absolutely intimidating, and it certainly required some concentration, but with some training and with some practice, it's definitely doable. But I would say the advantage of the revolver, unquestionably, is that contact distance shot. I mean, that is really what its advantage.
Right.
That's where it really, shines. Where, the round capacity isn't as nearly as much of an issue. We don't have to worry about the contact out of battery shot, stuff like that. Although I think that's overplayed, but it is still, the fact that it does not go out of battery when you do a contact shot with a revolver. So,
yeah. So, dude, Alex, you're killing it. You should just, Alex, you want to come on the show? You're friggin' lighting on fire on here.
Get up with Alex's.
Alex is the suited shootist, the second McFarlane of the gun industry. Gorgeous man, absolutely gorgeous man. So the Beretta 92, I started running LTTs for a while.
Sure.
And if you're familiar with the Beretta 92, you'll find that the hammer has like a half cock point, right? So there's a place where you can partially cock the hammer where it will stop and leave it like kind of sort of in the middle. Something akin to like a 30-30 lever gun, but not quite. So there's a couple times where I was running like threat, non-threat kind of scenarios with it. And it was after some gun manipulation, like a reload. And then I would decock the gun and holster, right? So now my hammer should be 100% decocked. And then the next thing that happened to me was I was presented with a non-threat target. But the stimulus was draw and then make the corner, and then all of a sudden it's a non-threat. And I would have told you that I wasn't touching my trigger. The fact that my shit was in half cock would tell you that the only way my trigger got there was if I touched my trigger.
Sure.
Now, ain't that a bitch? I was that day years old when I realized that I was touching that trigger. Every time I had been doing that drill with a Glock, I told you, nah, man, I ain't touching the trigger. I might be in there, but I ain't touching it. Bullshit, motherfucker. You took about a pound and a half, 2 pounds out of that thing.
Right.
Realize it.
Yeah, the a little more forgiving.
Right. Now your LCR all of a sudden, and LCR is the J frame for people who don't want to pay $1,000 for a gun that can shoot decent. But like any of these little pocket revolvers, all of a sudden you got a 10-pound trigger on that thing. There's a spot there where I could see the trigger being more forgiving of less than professional gun handling, mine included.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, like, I would. One of the things that drives me crazy I worked in a firearms retail organization for a very long time, and I would constantly see in our store or at our classes, I would see specifically women show up to our classes and they would have revolvers, or I would see the gun store salesman behind the counter talking to women being like, you know what you need? You need one of these revolvers. And,
Bonus points if it has a pink handle.
I'll tell you what, it was just so frustrating because it is not a beginner gun. It's very, very tough for beginners to shoot successfully, right, out of the box. I think anybody can be trained on it, but because, it does have that heavy trigger. Now, there are some benefits to it. It does have a forgiving trigger if you've got, trigger discipline issues. And I'm not saying that's what you had. You had a...
No, I'll say it. I did. I had my finger where I didn't think I did.
Sure.
I was taking weight out of something I wouldn't have told you I was taking weight out of.
But the thing is that's different than somebody that just has their finger where it's not supposed to be because they don't know any better, right? This
Right.
was a whoops. This was I had a stimulus, right? And it can happen to anybody, but specifically with new shooters who just don't know any better, they haven't developed that skill set. Maybe a revolver could be a little more, forgiving. So I think with everything, there's pluses and minuses, right? But the thing that it's just the answer for the new shooter is just false. It's just absolutely false. And it's very frustrating to see those myths perpetuated in the gun community because, then you have the little old lady who shows up to a CCW class with a Charter Arms 44 Bulldog, 44 Special Bulldog, because the guy behind the counter said this was the perfect gun. And she's going every time she presses a trigger and she's not hitting the cardboard. And we're like, okay, let's have a timeout here. Let's maybe, try a different firearm. So, I think it's a nuanced and complex discussion, when it comes to revolvers.
I have a really good example of this going the other way. I had a lady who came to me for some help. And it was one of those deals where homeboy had bought her a freaking, stupid 1911. We bought her a full-size 45 1911. That was going to be her gun. Spare me with the women can't shoot a full-size whatever. That's not my point. My point is the hands and the dexterity and the age and the arthritis and stuff. It wasn't happening. She could not grip a single stack 1911 very well at all. And she was running out of real estate and everything else. Manipulations were tough for her. Things were interesting, right? And we were kind of going through the list of the guns. We were like, man, what could we possibly set this lady up with? And man, oh man, I have a 3-inch LCR X 22, and I just had it. I had it with me. Normally, I wouldn't have even had it with me. I was messing with it that day, and I was like, you know what? I got something you could try. Well, I'll be damned. A freaking LCRX 22 worked out for her. Who would have thought, right? Hand size was fine. 8 rounds. Not a bad little defensive gun. This has been years now. I didn't know shit about Federal Punch. I should try to find her phone number and tell her Federal Punch is a thing. I didn't know a goddamn thing about that then. But I'll tell you, it was interesting to see how much better she was just able to get a decent grip on that gun. It was it was pretty cool. But
and one of the things that I would definitely encourage people to do is to regardless of what you choose, whether it's semi-automatic, whether it's revolver, whether it's situationally dependent, whether you're a new shooter, whether you're an experienced shooter. I had what is the little super ultra lightweight J-frame Smith & Wesson 22 Magnum? So
the
41 PD?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
340 PD, something like that. Mine had a hammer and a fiber optic front sight. And so I thought this might be a really fantastic little carry gun because I think it was like an 8-shot capacity or something like that, 22 Magnum. And man, I tried about 6 different types of ammo out of mine, and it keyholed everything. Everything. Like it would not shoot well. And so like that can happen to any gun, and maybe that was a problem with the barrel. I don't know, but that was an example of something where a lot of times people will read on the internet, hey, this is a great idea. I should carry this gun. Or the guy behind the counter says you should carry this gun. And without testing something out, dude, it wouldn't hold like a 2-foot group. It was at 7 yards. It was incredible. It was honestly like impressive how terrible it shot. But then I've had friends who had that exact same gun that had great results out of it. But mine was a problem.
Yeah, I've tis what it is. These different guns, different manufacturers and stuff.
I forgot about that gun. That was a cool little gun, man.
So I've really been enjoying my GP 100 match champion 10 mil.
You've shot competition with that a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. You want to see me fall below the first page of the results in an IDPA match? Watch me shoot a revolver one time. Holy shit. 6 reload. Dude, I'm so used to like staging shit out that like I was shooting arrays that I was like 6. It should have been 6 reload, 4 reload, stow, 6. I'm just up there going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I literally got 4 clicks out of dry fire. I was like, I fucked up.
I think we lost Scotty for a second, but that's okay. I'm sure he'll jump back in.
He'll come back.
So just to weigh in on this discussion, right? So for those playing the home game, I buy 1 gun a year. The gun that I purchased this year was a Ruger LCR in 38 Special. So, Kent, to your original question, is this superior, inferior maybe to its more modern brethren, the plastic fantastics that you and I are known to carry and prefer? I don't think so. If we remind ourselves that guns are tools, I place this very clearly under the category of a useful tool. In the event that, maybe I'm feeling lazy, I don't want to strap on the Glock 34 in my Tier 1 concealed holster or my floodlight, or I don't want to carry my 43X. Maybe I'm wearing more restrictive clothing. I'm dressed more, fitted. Or, again, just that quick jaunt. This certainly fits the purpose of removing the excuses for not carrying a gun. Right? Oh, I can't carry this gun because my clothing's too tight, or whatever, this, that, or the other. Yeah, all that shit goes out the window with one of these.
Yeah.
Right.
It does.
So what role do I think that this tool serves? In my opinion, this is a get off me gun. This is that bad breath distance to handshake distance to, what the FBI identified in their report from 1998 to 2008, that 97% of violent encounters occur within, bad breath distance out to 12 feet. Right. So I believe handshake distance was the terminology that they used.
Reactionary gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where that gun fits in. Now, to Alex's point, that 25-yard head box shot or T-box shot on an active shooter in a mall, is it capable? Absolutely. But not for the beginner. I think to Scotty's point, right? I have been shooting for a very long time. Now, granted, I'm not nearly as good as you and some of our other our other guests that have been on the show are, but I feel like I know my way around a bang stick. And I'll tell you what, inside 10 yards and in, it takes a hot minute for me to get this thing to hit exactly where I want it. I mean, we're talking aim small, miss small, stack them on a shirt button type accuracy. It takes a minute.
Yeah, it does.
And when you're 10 yards and in, you ain't got time to take that kind of shot. But is it capable? Absolutely. But it's going to take a lot of practice. So I actually really appreciate your comments, or the comments that were made in this podcast around, this is definitely not a beginner's gun. It's just not. Having shot this thing, and even in 38 special, this little bastard kicks like a mule. It does. It punches hard. I wouldn't want to put this in the hands of my wife or my kid, right? I'd want them handling something, 9mm. I think 22 mag is an underrated cartridge. From any ballistic pepper spray, I believe is the term. But yeah, man, I actually have to look back on my time as a younger man working behind the counter of a gun store and recommended something like this to a young lady who's looking for her first gun. Because I too am a victim of that, or I am guilty of doing that, right? It's kind of like one of those things where you live and learn, right? All those people that you talked to that you helped out so many years ago, you wish you could give them their money back, or like, hey, keep your money, but let's talk about some things that deserve some additional clarification. Right? But yeah, so I've recently gotten very fond of off-body carry, and let me clarify that statement. I don't mean off-body carry for firearms. I have a very large, essentially fanny pack that I will carry sling style. I carry my tourniquet. I carry a tourniquet in there. I've got extra flashlight batteries. My cell phone goes in there, my wallet. It's a man purse. It is what it is. That frees up my pockets and my waistline for shit like this, right? And I don't feel so encumbered. I don't feel so mired down by all the crap in my pockets and my waistline that the typical everyday carry, person or aficionado goes with, right? And I've really been appreciating it. I appreciate this for what it is, but I have to recognize the limitations of the platform and as my skill, as a shooter behind such a platform.
Yeah.
So, TJ, today, if you were looking for your first gun, of course, I might recommend something like a Glock 19, 43, 43X, or anything of similar size and style. If somebody were really conscious about comfortability, concealability, and the ideals of a J-frame revolver, because I'll be honest, I can carry this thing and barely know it's there. It truly is comfortable to carry. I do appreciate that about it. And for those wondering what I carried in, I have a Filster, I believe it's called their City Special, that this thing fits very nicely into. And it disappears in my waistline. It really does. I get that. I get the appeal of that low form factor. But I think 38 special is a little much. 9mm would be cool, I think. Ideal. From a, as opposed to like a 380 or a 25 ACP. But 22 Win Mag, I'd recommend something like this in a 22 Magnum all day long.
Might as well just go with the 22 and get 8 shots out of it.
Right. That's the point that I'm making, right?
Yeah.
I could make, if we were to take this exact gun in 38 special or 357 Magnum, shit, let's live wild, right? Because everyone's like stopping power. This form factor, but chambered, I could certainly make a stronger argument for the 22 Magnum in this platform over the 38 quite handily.
Yeah. The 9mm LCR is what started my YouTube fame, or lack thereof.
Infamy. Yeah, so Alex, you make a good point, right? They do make a 9mm LCR. But Kent and I actually discussed that. Kent and I Kent gets quite giddy. I think he lives vicariously through me in the excitement around my annual gun purchase.
Yeah.
We go back and forth, and honestly, one of the things, Kent, I don't want to speak for you on this, buddy, but you were vehemently opposed to. I was like, hey, what about 9mm? And you were like, don't do it. So I honor and respect my best friend's opinion, so I avoided the 9mm. I could not find a Ruger LCR in 22 mag. I found a few Smith & Wesson J frames in 22 mag, but I ain't paying $900 for a fucking J frame at 22 Magnum.
There is that. The 9mm LCR is super duper susceptible to crimp jump. 9mm ammo ain't crimpy enough to be crimpy enough not to have the bullets get longer during the course of recoil. And next thing you know, your cartridge overall length on a 9mm goes from 1.10 to about 1.3 something. And your cylinder won't rotate anymore because you got a freaking projectile sticking halfway out the son of a bitch. Because the 9mm LCR and the small size of the gun and the considerably high pressure that people don't realize in 9mm results in crimp jump in a lot of ammo. A lot of different types of ammo. That'll jump the crimp. We had a gentleman shooting a Smith 625 45 ACP the other night at our IDPA practice, and he was having crimp jump in 45 ACP. And a big old son of a bitchin' 38-ounce 4-inch revolver, he was having crimp jump. I have yet to see crimp jump in my 10mm that I shoot 40 Smith & Wesson out of with moon clips, though. So
right. I actually, there was a time I had a Smith. So obviously, I don't think there's any secret. Those that have watched this podcast long enough know that I absolutely despise Taurus. I love Matt Lanford to death. He's a great dude, but I'm sorry. I've had too many bad experiences with Taurus to trust them all that much. With that being said, I had a Smith.
Where the gun company hurt you, TJ.
Yeah, right. I had a Smith & Wesson Governor, which is their answer to their retort to the judge, right? 45 long Colt, 45 ACP and 410, 45 ACP with moon clips. Right. That was actually a really cool gun. I really regret having it. It's something I used to carry around when I was on, living out in the country and timber rattler country, more specifically. So when I was floating around, I wasn't opposed to the idea of having a 410 revolver loaded with number 4 shot, for the critters, or a moon clip packed with 45 ACP if I felt so fancy. Right. Like the idea. But not as concealable as something like this. Again, the comfortability factor really becomes key when you start jumping up in revolver sizes.
One of the other things I do a lot is this business owner, busy guy, college professor, fucking life of mine. I need to start saying this differently. One of the things I used to do a lot when I had time to enjoy life and have fun, was fly fish. I really like to go fishing. I enjoyed fishing a lot. I've been fishing in a year or 2 or 3, but I really used to like fishing. One of the reasons I would carry an LCR then was because I could put rat shot as the number 1 round in the gun and then go on about my fishing business. And a couple of the devil's serpents have been schwacked with a 38 rat shot. That works pretty good.
I've actually gone out. I've actually shot a rattlesnake in the face with 9mm pest control shot. That was a really pissed off and not so dead rattler.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, and I need to do more research, honestly, on some of the ballistic testing around 30. I've seen ballistic testing with the 22 rat shot. It don't do fuck all. It's like a quarter inch of penetration, if that. I'd really want to see some testing around the 38 rat shot. Obviously, I've seen that. That's one of the reasons that 38s or revolvers in general are quite popular with country boys, right? Because there are rat shot calibers available across the board. 357, there are 38, 9mm, 45, 22, right? They have their place, but I don't know. Like, after seeing what it did to a rattlesnake at like any closer to the snake, I was in biting distance. I was in biting range of a fucking rattlesnake. Shot it in the head with 9mm rat shot or snake shot, pest control shot, whatever you call it. Multiple rounds, and that snake did not die from that. It wasn't until I got to the 6th round, which was ball, that actually did the snake in. Right?
Rattlesnake bill drill.
That's pretty much the size of it.
Rattlesnake bill drill. Are you ready? Stand by. Beep. Whack, 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 whack. Whack.
Yeah, look, lessons were learned, okay? Lessons were learned. But,
look, I don't know, dude, because my 38 rat shot, here's the thing, though. I think we need to do some rat shot ballistics testing. We need to call Paul Harrell and have him come lie to us on the internet.
Right.
So I cannot tell you how many pigeons I murdered with 38 rat shot out of a 357 LCR.
You said pigeons?
Yeah, pigeons.
Okay, pigeons I get.
How's a pigeon stronger than a snake? Or less strong than a snake?
The hide's much tougher on a snake.
Yeah.
They don't make boots out of pigeons, Kent.
And there's your t-shirt. Tonight's t-shirt is they don't make boots out of pigeons. All right.
Sorry,
I'm not wrong.
Sorry, I disappeared for a second, guys.
That's okay.
No, you're fine.
We figured you'd find your way back. Dude, they don't make boots out of pigeons. All right, fair. That's fair.
So one time I was
no shit, there I was.
I was fishing with a mentor of mine. God rest his soul, Pat Roberts, one of the smartest, most interesting men I've ever met in my life. We were fishing the white bass run on public land at a state park. And I think I probably caught about 70 bass in this little creek. He had this sweet little honey hole he wanted to show me. And he was probably about 70 years old. And he took me back in this sweet little spot that no one else was fishing. And we just killed it. We had 5-gallon buckets just full of white bass. And so we were sitting there on a log in the middle of the river. And he hands me a flask. And I was like, okay. So I take a couple sips out of the flask. And then just out of nowhere, he stands up and he draws this gun and starts shooting into the water. And it scared me to death. I mean, it was absolutely the most terrified I think I've ever been in my life. I had no idea. I was so relaxed. I was chilling. I was having a good time, having a little drink. And all of a sudden, he's in a gunfight. And he was carrying a little 22 Magnum revolver in his pocket. And there was a snake coming up to us, and I didn't see it. And he jumps up into action, the 70-year-old guy, and starts just does a mag dump out of his revolver. and of 22 Magnum birdshot. And to your point, it did not kill the snake at all.
Now,
it scared it away.
Now, I know it's not a revolver, but when I started deer hunting, I was a bow hunter. Actually, thinking about it, I'd really like to get back into bow hunting. But my darling wife bought me this.
Is that a snake slayer?
That is absolutely a snake slayer, a double barrel or an over-under Bond Arms Derringer in 410 and 45 Colt. Now, let me tell you what. Number 4 shot in 410 at a copperhead will kill that sumbitch dead. Never had a problem. People make fun of this thing, but if we're talking about the utility of general use, not necessarily a two-legged predator, but, a nope rope, all day long, buddy. I go in the woods, this thing comes with me. Point blank and period. So I'm not saying that this is a good replacement for this just yet, because again, there's still some more research and learning that needs to be done with. This is the first J-frame I've owned in 20 years. So knowing now what I wish I had known then, right? There's still some more research that needs to be done. Come to think of it, I probably need to make a better holster for this damn thing.
Now, which J-frame did you get?
I got the Ruger LCR.
That's not a J-frame, dude. Come on.
In
I've
38
been saying
special.
that for weeks. Thank you, Scotty.
It's not a J-frame, man.
Okay, so J-frame is specifically tailored for Smith & Wesson snub-nose revolvers.
All jacuzzis are hot
correct.
tubs. Not all hot tubs are jacuzzis. Come on, bro.
Right. Fair enough.
Jeez.
This here snubby.
All right, I'll give you that.
You know what LCR stands for?
Little crappy revolver.
Little crappy revolver. That's right.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, Scotty. And I'm glad that you mentioned specifically after making that
stop.
statement.
Hold on.
No. You are not interrupting me on this. You shut up. Listen, I actually went to a range that had rental guns, and I said, let me borrow your Ruger LCR, or not your Ruger LCR, but let me check out your Smith & Wesson J-frame. Pick that gun up. Arguably the same gun, same size, same caliber, all that good stuff.
All right.
Arguably the same damn gun. And that thing would not fire on every single cylinder.
Yeah, we just got done talking about how revolvers are finicky. They are very unreliable. They require a lot of
right. I would expect a Smith & Wesson that costs significantly more than this Ruger LCR did.
It was a range gun, right?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it absolutely matters.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, why?
Range guns are not taken care of, man. Did he just mute himself and
I muted him.
He just muted himself and started yelling at us.
I muted him.
Touche, bitch.
God damn it. Oh, that was fun.
That was really good.
Fun. Oh, TJ, I love it. Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't have it. I used to have a LCR in 357. It was a good little revolver. I never had any problems with it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, look, you might have missed the part when I was talking to Kent that, like, if I'd known now what I had known then, because again, I was guilty of it. Recommend that nice lady that came in, not little old lady. I would never do that to a little old lady, but that nice young lady that came in looking for her first gun was waffling around the efficacy of carrying a Glock 19 or similar. There were no 43s or 43Xs or 48s at the time, right? I was one of those guys that put a Smith & Wesson J-frame in their hand and said, hey, this is what you need. Had they had them at the time, I would have gone back and said, hey, rather than that 38, let's put you behind like a 22 Win Mag or something like that. That would be far more manageable for you with regard to your ability to control the firearm in recoil, accuracy, follow-up shots, and ultimately not be terrified of the gun. Because this thing, like I said, I said, you know, it kicks like a mule, but it sounds like thunder going off in your hand. It is the loudest gun I own. Right? The fireballs are bitching that come out of this thing, though.
Yeah, and we are evolving. The industry's evolving. Sometimes not in the correct way, right? I mean, the Smith & Wesson like EZ series is the new, oh, I got just what you need right here, little lady. That's the new one.
Or the Sig Rose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same gun, pretty colors to appeal to the ladies. But Lena Mitchell thought about it, so it's all kosher.
That's right. Yeah, you get that cool little scrolling on the side of it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But I am paying attention to the chat here. Like I'm seeing. Yes, I really wanted to get a 327, but I couldn't find one. But I am checking out the Georgia Arms wad cutters that you guys are talking about in the chat. So.
All right. I found an LCR 327.
Really?
Alex or whoever wants to tell me, I will buy it. I will buy the 327 LCR that I found. If you can tell me where, Marcin, I know where there's a 327 GP100 too.
Ooh, that would be fun to play with.
I got you. Where can I find ammo for that shit that's not more than 50 cents a round?
You can't.
You can't. You just can't.
No.
You super duper can't. Marcin, Spar Firearms, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. SPAR Firearms, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
I would venture to guess that 327 right now is probably closer to $1 around.
Sure is. And here's the thing. I reload, like, again, Marcin, sure, man. I reload. I get it. I don't have dies for 327. Blah, 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 blah. So I buy 327 until I'm done fucking around. I've got a lot of money into my setup just to feed a new caliber and a new revolver. And for what?
Sure.
What's it really gain me? I could just as easily get a 22 LCR, another one, and I already have one. And then go from there. Like,
well,
Marcin, the guy that owns Spar Firearms in Mechanicsburg, PA, his name is Tanner. Shout out Spar. Go buy your stuff from them. They're good people. I've done piles of business with them. They've recommended me piles of private students. You won't find his inventory online. You're not going to be able to buy from him online. He doesn't do a lot of gun shop. He doesn't do a lot of gun broker shit. But if you call up over there tomorrow, there's a 327 sitting there in that case. Or at least there was. Let's put it this way. There was like Thursday or Wednesday of this week, of this past week. So I'd imagine probably still there. Hit him up. See what's up. I'll bet you he'll take your credit card number and he'll ship it wherever you want. I'll bet you he'll do that.
I wanted to circle back to something real quick because I think it's important. I, over the years, working in the firearms retail side of things, and then also working in the training industry, we see stereotypes in students and in the sales associates, right? And we see stereotypes in consumers, and sometimes those stereotypes are correct. But one of the things that I always really tried really hard as a salesman was to never say never, to never speak in absolutes. Sometimes a revolver is the correct choice for the first-time gun owner. Sometimes it is the right choice for the super experienced person that trains a bunch. Sometimes it is not. And, it really just depends on what your needs are. And, I think of one particular student that showed up at one of our classes, and she bought her gun at our store. And I had a discussion with our sales associate who sold her this gun. He sold her this revolver because she had really bad arthritis, and she had really struggled with manipulating the slide on a semi-automatic pistol. And so she just had it set in her head that she wanted a revolver. So he sold her a revolver. Well, the problem is that her arthritis in her hand also prevented her from being able to press the trigger on the revolver that she bought. So, you know, that was not the right issue with her, or that was not the right answer for her. You know, I think that as the industry evolves, as it tries to meet, you know, the needs of the consumers, there sometimes are really good answers that come out. You know, I have a bone to pick with the Smith & Wesson EZ because I've just seen so many students struggle with specifically the grip safety, you know, on that gun. But you know, for some people, it is a really good solution. So, or it is the best solution that they're able to come up with. Not everybody is going to be, you know, shooting 1,000 rounds a month, 2,000 rounds a month, you know, going to classes and stuff. Some people just need to be able to protect themselves and their families, and they're going to take the minimum amount of training. So we try to find them the best solution. And for a lot of people, if they're going to buy a gun, one gun, and it's going to go in a nightstand, I really think the revolver is the correct choice. You know, if they can handle that trigger, and, you know, if they take a class, get maybe a little bit of training, and they put a gun in a nightstand, then I really think that a revolver can be the correct answer for that person. I don't want anyone to buy a gun and never do any training, but, you know, I'm realistic. I understand that that's just how it is with some students, you know.
You know, Scotty, I'm going to caveat onto that because actually, I got this idea from my brother, right? What was interesting was, you know, carrying that, you know, throwing this maybe in an, you know, when you're carrying your primary weapon, right? Scotty, you mentioned a Glock 19 Gen 3, right? Talking to my brother, I got this idea. He goes, listen, you know, yes, I carry X, whatever it might be. But this is a backup, not just for himself, right? I'm out with my wife who maybe doesn't carry on a regular basis, chooses not to, and that's their prerogative. Absolutely. I wish they would get training. I wish they would carry, but let's be realistic. Not in the cards for everybody. Personal preference, it is what it is. But you come into a situation where all hell's breaking loose. Hey, here's a gun. Barricade yourself in this room with the kids or these other people, right? Anyone comes through this door, you've got something that you can defend yourself with, right? That was an interesting insight that I honestly hadn't thought about, right? How would you arm somebody that for some reason, maybe even capable, right? I still recommend people get training and whatnot. But hey, if you choose not to carry on a regular basis, it's nothing to throw this in an ankle holster, right? And have it as a spare for a trusted loved one that might need it.
Sure. Yeah, and
right.
I don't know how likely that scenario is. I mean, that's a pretty far-fetched scenario, but it certainly is a scenario that, you know, you'd be glad you had it if that scenario played out.
Yeah, no more far-fetched than taking a 40-yard shot inside a shopping mall.
Sure. Well,
right?
in my new job, I'm not allowed to carry, right? And there's been a couple times now where I have come straight from work and been hanging out with somebody, and they had an extra gun and an extra holster, and we were going out, and so it, you know, they passed it on to me when we were in the car. I strapped it on and we went in, and like, those are good friends to have, you know. Those are the kind of people I like to hang around. So you're not wrong. I mean, that scenario, I've seen that happen firsthand in the last month twice. So
right.
So one of my favorite moments in life, there's a scene in the movie 13 Hours, the Benghazi movie, where the contractor dude gets off the plane and the other dude like isn't following him but is, and then they get into the car together.
He hands him a cig.
My man hands him the cig, and he puts it down. He's like, "So what's it like over here, right?" I'm gonna tell you what. Zach Cox got on an airplane and came up here to take a med class. And Zach Cox decided not to carry a gun on the airplane. I got to hand him a fucking holster. No, that's right. You brought his holster. He was even wearing his holster when he came out of the airport. He got in my freaking jump seat in the truck, and I was like, handed him a gun. He put that bitch on, and for a moment, we felt like super secret agent spy guys.
Heck yeah.
No, it's cool as fuck.
And another thing to consider too, right? Non-permissive environments. Scotty, you bring up a good segue here, right? Not all states are cool, even with 10-round guns. Tell me where aside from New York, New Jersey, and probably Massachusetts, all states where I refuse to travel to.
Nope, you're good in Mass.
Even still, you get my point.
Yeah.
I'm going to Colorado at the end of February. Guess what's coming with me?
Hell yeah.
Right?
If you ever do train at the SIG Academy and you ever do get invited to dinner with the fellas afterwards at SIG Academy, be aware that many of the fellas at SIG Academy are law enforcement cats. Be aware of the fact that they can carry to the nice restaurant in Massachusetts. And be very aware of the fact that you, sir, may not be able to carry at the nice restaurant in Massachusetts. The more do you know.
Noted.
I we were going to Mass. They were like, yeah, you want to go to Fuck Wagon Crab Shack? And I'm like, yay. Because apparently they were Italian in this one.
So that brings us to a good ramp down segue, right? I get, because I was on the phone with my brother before we got on the show. And he and I are actually hoping to go train this year or this summer together. I mentioned to him, I was like, because he mentioned he wanted to do vehicle defense type stuff. Obviously, our boy Phil Groff at Vigor Training, right? We want to get an AVD course in. And I mentioned I want to do a ShivWorks class. I want to do some ECQC stuff. Jiu-jitsu, guns, and knives. What more could you ask for in a weekend?
Sounds awesome.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go try to do that this summer. But
you should come up here. We're hosting them.
When?
I'll send you the link, but we're hosting Phil for his AVD and his Grounded and Wounded all in 1 week.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Send me the link to that, Scotty. We're not opposed to a trip to Ohio.
All right.
Because we got family up there and shit. So why not?
I got a new camper. You can come stay in it. Tons of room.
Wait, hold on. I heard this story before. Is this the one that had like something happen to it?
No, I got a new one to replace that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that one's still in Pennsylvania, as far as I know. We left it there.
Yeah, man, we're down.
So, but another point that you were making though is as far as traveling across the country, and I've heard we've got a shotgun instructor, Dave Hopdry, one of my favorite human beings on the planet, does a phenomenal defensive shotgun class for us at Gunset. But one of the things he preaches is he talks about how the shotgun is one of the more socially acceptable guns, and I would argue the same is true for a revolver. It's a little more socially acceptable than an AR-15 or some Gucci'd out Glock 19 with a RMR on the top of it. And do you have a comp on the end of that?
No, that's Glock 34.
Oh, that's not cool. No,
that means not yet.
Yeah, you need to have a Glock 34 with a PMM double port comp on the end of it. Then you'll be cool.
I mean, at that point, Kate, you should just be carrying an SBR.
Right.
How long can we make the pistol?
But yeah, like I think the revolver is a little more socially acceptable.
That's kind of where I'm going with it, right? I mean, even as a knife, I know this is somewhat tangential to what we're talking about, but like people who carry knives, right? Even in the workplace, there is something about like an auto opener or an assisted opener that causes people, like if you pull that out to like clean your fingernails, right? People are like, oh my God, like you've got a fucking Bowie knife. Whereas you pull out grandpa's old folder, right? There's a little bit more elegance to it. There's a little bit more like, oh, it's a tool versus a weapon.
I pulled this out the other day.
Yeah,
and,
I've got one.
People freaked out when I popped that out at work. I had to open up a bag of chips that were stubborn.
Yeah,
now I'm gonna get me one of them.
I need to get mine cleaned up, but yeah.
Is that the Durac or no? What is that?
I can't. So it's a Microtech. I can't remember the actual name of it. My wife got me this for our anniversary several years ago.
That's awesome, man.
It's a great knife, but I'll be honest with you. The reason I don't carry this all that often is because this thing gets gummed up so easily that
They got a lifetime warranty, man. Send it in.
yeah, I need to send it in to them. I really do. So I have found that blowing it out with my air compressor and throwing some WD-40 dry lube into it will clean it up nicely. But to your point, it's a great knife, but the mechanism.
Frank gave this one to me, and he was cutting stuff. It was actually it was for your class, Kent, when we were making the walls, and he was using this knife to cut the construction fencing, that green fencing we put up, and he was running this down the asphalt, like literally like scratching this on the asphalt. And then he gave this knife to me. God bless you, Frank. You're my hero. And so I sent it into Microtech, and they had it back to me in about a month. And it's $25. Works like new. They sharpened it. So, and then this is my new one I just got. This is the Spartan.
Yeah, I probably need to break it. You know what? I'm going to look that up right now and send this thing in.
Yeah, it's like $25, I think. So, but anyway, yeah, these are significantly less socially acceptable than, a fixed blade or a, little pocket folder. So, and I think, circling back around when it comes to revolvers, a lot of people, they grew up with revolvers, and, their dad had one or their grandpa had one, and, it doesn't seem so scary. So maybe it is a little more accessible to certain groups of people. And I think that you can be taught to shoot them very well. I think they can be very effective. You got to understand the limitations, debunk those myths that they're super reliable and that, they're easy to shoot. Those are, I would say those are myths, that's not the case.
Well, no. So hold on. Let's put that into context for a second. Easy to shoot. Yes. Extract cylinder, put bullets in cylinder, close cylinder, squeeze trigger. Very simple. Simple. Manual of arms. But I will tell you this. I have noticed that inside 10 yards, when I'm trying to shoot this thing from that heavy, 10.03 pound trigger pull that Ken explicitly told us not to mention, there's a lot of jerking to the right. Like I notice a lot of my shots on a full-size IPSC target are very much aligned to the right, and that's from school. And I'm keeping in mind, I'm predominantly shooting this, strong hand only. I'm noticing the clenching of the entire hand to pull that trigger is causing those shots to break to the right. So overall manual of arms, very simple. Shooting it well, challenging.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I haven't got a chance to show my revolver. I brought one for show and tell tonight. And here we are an hour and a half in. I've never shown it. This is my dad's Ruger Speed 6 that he's had for 30 years, something like that. So I'm visiting my family, so I had to steal a gun from my dad. But and it is a Ruger. See, I grew up shooting Rugers. The manual of arms on these guys is very simple. It's very simple within 5 minutes to teach a brand new shooter how to load it, how to unload it, how it works. 5 minutes on this thing, and they know how it works. I would argue that a semi-automatic.
Well, now he's just going to leave us hanging.
I was just going to say, that thing's got bodies on it, bro. Papa Cronin done buried somebody with that pitch. That thing's got bodies. TJ?
I would agree.
Support me here. Support.
No, I agree. I don't know Scotty like you do.
That's got bodies on it.
Or his dad, but if you say so, I will back you 100%.
Oh God. Well, this is what happens when Scotty. So I love how Scotty's like, I'm visiting my family, which really means his wife threw him out, and he's now living in his dad's basement again. That's also not true. It's funny to say. It's not true, though. So, I don't know. Now I feel like we should come up with something else to talk about for the next 15 minutes until he finds his way back, just so we could say goodbye to him. Instead, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a promo for Gunset without Scotty here. Does that sound like fun?
I think that sounds like fun.
I think that sounds like fun. So, if you're in Ohio, or if you have a car that can get to Ohio, or if you're allowed on an airplane and that airplane can take you to Ohio, you should go train with Gunset. It's almost easier to do seeing he's not here, so I don't have to look him in the face and tell him he's good at something while I do it. Those dudes doing a phenomenal job, right? Scotty's built a nice crew with him and Kinsey and Willis and Hop Tray, all these guys and Fowler that, all these fellas that he's put together in that team. They've built a really, really amazing crew of people that have come together, like-minded shooters, like-minded instructors, good men. And you should go train with them, right? I had the pleasure of being hosted out there. I brought Defensive Pistol Metrics out to Ohio. I met some really good shooters that have been coming up in his program, and I was able to help them, take another step in their journey or path or whatever kind of like cool guy shit you want to say. But I'll tell you right now, those Gunset boys are serious. They're doing good work. Scotty's been a student of mine now twice, maybe 3 times in classes I've done. That dude burns it down, man. He runs a gun like a son of a bitch, and he's a real good trainer, real good teacher, good professional communicator, a solid human being. So, Gunset training, just outside of Dayton, Ohio. You should go find them. You should go train with them. They're good people and solid all the way around. So, if you're done training with me and you want to go train with somebody else, you should train with Scotty. And if you want to train with a better looking guy than me, and you've never trained with either one of us, you should train with Scotty. That's the deal with that. So that's a Gunset promo. I really want to finish this up so that by the time he comes back, we'll be gone. And he'll be like, oh, what happened?
Right.
Yeah. Revolvers are good. We like them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, don't take what I said as disparaging. Like I said, these are tools at the end of the day. Right? You might not have a favorite hammer, but you probably got a hammer that even if you don't like it, it does the damn job. And that's what I look at this thing as. So I think that the revolver is the quintessential embodiment of the terminology or the association of a firearm as a tool rather than a weapon. Kate, you left me hanging, buddy. I'm out here all by myself. You left me unattended and without an adult. Kent. A little help here. All right. So I guess that's it for the show, everybody. Thank you all very much for coming out. Thank you for your time this week. As always, we appreciate you spending your time with us on a Friday evening. If you are going to buy gun shit, might as well buy it from our affiliate links that help support our channel. greenmountaindefense.com/affiliate-links. If you're going to carry a gun, you should carry medical. And damn it, even if you don't carry a gun, you should still carry medical. darkangelmedical.com for your medical needs. We get nothing back from the medical equipment sales, but please let Kerry Davis know that we are showing him some love by putting that the Sling'N Lead Podcast sent you in your order notes whenever you place an order with Dark Angel Medical. Check out greenmountaindefense.com/training for Kent's calendar and all the training and events that he has coming, not only to his area, but to wherever he may be going. And as always, we appreciate you all. Thank you. God bless you. Take care of each other. Get out and shoot.
Wait.
Oh, God damn it. I literally just finished the sign off. What?
I know. I was just telling you, all I did was I muted and got off cam to try to call Scotty. I called Scotty, and he said Green Mountain Defense was better. None of that happened.
I mean, he's not here to defend himself, so I think that's good.
No. Okay.
Anything to say to the folks at home before we sign off?
Did you tell them about Dark Angel Medical?
Yes.
And the affiliate links.
And yes, I talked about Green Mountain Defense. The link is literally down below. Oh, actually, I will interrupt my own sign off. Cam's Ass Kicking Contest shirts are still available on our teespring.com website. Links are down in the description below if you feel so inclined to donate showing support and love for our buddy Cam. Please head on over to Teespring, purchase one of those shirts. All of the proceeds for that shirt will go directly to Cam and Casey for their recovery, their medical bills. Absolute travesty that happened to two wonderful, lovely individuals that we both care about very deeply. So please show some support. If you don't want to buy a shirt, there's a link to the GoFundMe down in the description below.
Wait. Did you tell them if they were going to buy gun stuff anyway, they should buy it from our affiliate?
Yes, I did that too, Ken.
Are you sure?
Yes. This is what you get for going off camera and going on mute. You should have listened.
I had to pee.
That's all we have for tonight. Thank you. God bless you. Take care of each other. Get out and shoot. We're gone.